where do we start with England and this debacle?
Well, that was the worst performance I've ever seen from an England team. Ever.
The long, long wait is over. A Wembley roar to hail England's history makers.
Hello and welcome to the Borough Breakdown podcast and the Road to Berlin with Dana, Tom and Matt. England 0, Slovenia 0. Gareth Southgate's 3 Lions top Group C, but that's as good as it gets. The joint lowest scoring group in Euros history, the group of death to my eyes and my enjoyment of football. Tom and Matt, let rip. What did you think of that performance yesterday against Slovenia?
You know what? I appreciated it. With it being as hot as it is, I've not been able to sleep properly for like a week or two. But that game really helped. So, can't complain about that. But I was thinking about it today, and I do wonder how high England have set the bar now. And the fact that these performances haven't lived up to anywhere close to the past couple of tournaments. It's kind of like I don't know what's wrong. Obviously, we mentioned after the Serbia pods that that fitness could have been an issue. A lot of the players seem tired and leggy, and I don't get how every other team seems to be kind of well up for this tournament, and we don't look like we've got a clue. We've said plenty of times, it's like watching Borough in the first 7 games of last season. Yep. We'll run out of ideas, but you know the important thing is keep the ball. So we'll go back to Pickford, we'll go back to Stones, we'll go back to Gay, and it starts all over again. Obviously, I appreciate that there will be teams that kind of sit in deep. There were times yesterday where we were trying to break Slovenia down, but they literally had everyone in their half of the pitch defending and pressing out from the middle. It's just we had one moment where we actually seemed quick and it was offside. But I don't know where that's been for the rest of the tournament, and why has it been so sparse with when we know how England can play and we've seen it in the last couple of tournaments.
Yeah, I think I've had more enjoyable naps than what we watched last night. It was absolutely dreadful. It was such a bad performance. There were glimmers at times, I think, of maybe slight positives. Maybe it was a bit more of a press at times. Maybe we had runners in behind Kane. There were little things happening, but overall, the quality of the performance was still very, very low. I mean, maybe given the incredibly low bar we've set ourselves so far, there was a degree of improvement. But I think even then, the team continues to play so beneath its potential. And even if this team doesn't reach its full potential, it will still go incredibly far, I feel. Even if Gareth Southgate doesn't get 100%, and maybe he never will, because getting every player into a system maybe that works is impossible, but he could get so much closer and do so much better than what he's doing. And I know we'll discuss obviously the team and the changes and stuff, but insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I just thought if there was ever going to be a chance for him, as we discussed, not to like overhaul the team, but just experiment with a few different things. You've got a chance of finding something. You've got a chance of maybe just finding a spark or a glimmer or something to work on. And the fact that we seemed, again, so conservative in his inability to really change the starting 11, it took us until midway through the second half to really start to make changes, which actually helped, surprisingly enough. But it is a concern that I don't think it's the players as much. There is an issue with the players because they just don't look on it. But Southgate just doesn't seem brave enough. He's not he's not taking the handbrake off this team. And we've run out of time now. It's all or nothing from here on in. So we just need to hope and pray that from what we saw at the end of that game with some of the substitutes might give us something to build on. But we are so lucky to get through this group. And we're so lucky to be top of it. And we're even more lucky that we're on the side of the draw we are. So maybe it's a sign if we kick into gear, we might be okay. But so far, it's been dreadful, hasn't it?
Yes, I'll get my positives out the way first. We've topped the group. We're through to the knockout stages. And I agree, Matt, we weren't as bad as we were against Denmark. But what we were watching was absolutely dire. We have an assortment of quality players that are showing absolutely nothing of the sort. We are so boring to watch. We look lost tactically and individually. And we're so easy to defend against. Like that game yesterday was a massive opportunity for the players to quieten the criticism that they've faced in this tournament. And they didn't do that at all. In fact, I'd say that they probably cranked the criticism up a notch. And it was quite funny in the second half. You know, when your team has performed so shit that you kind of just say, fuck it, let's wave a scarf over our heads and chant the exact same song on loop for about 15 minutes. That's what happened. They must have been absolutely bored out of their skull, because I was. I was watching it at home. 11 shots on target in 3 games, 2.3 XG. So we're not creating loads of chances. And the chances we are creating are not of high quality. And I don't know about you guys, I kind of like to get your take on this, but this smacks of a side that have reached the end of their cycle under this manager. And I've been defensive of Gareth Southgate, because whilst he's been in charge of England, we have seen some, amazing tournament progress. We've obviously got to a World Cup semi-final. We've got to a Euros final. We knocked out Germany in what was probably Gareth Southgate's best tactical performance as a manager. But right now, he is a manager losing credit quick, and that is sad.
Yeah, I think he's arguably maybe, I know hindsight's and rose-tinted glasses and everything, but in past tournaments, it has become quite apparent that under Southgate, we've always been on the easier side of the draw. And I don't want to take away from the fact that you still have to beat who's in front of you, and you still have to get past the Swedens, the Ukraines, and whoever else, the Colombias that we've beaten in major tournaments gone by, who we should beat. But I still believe, if you take a step back, and I know it's easy for me to say this now, but when we've come up against a far superior nation in a big game, very rarely have we got the job done. Germany is possibly the only one. France, we've fallen short, I think, in the Nations League, although I think that's just a sorry excuse for a tournament that I never watch. I do know we got
Papa
beat
John's
by the
trophy.
Netherlands. Yeah, it's the Papa John's of international football, or European nations, whatever. But yeah, we fell short to the Netherlands in that. We lost to Belgium in a third-place playoff in the previous World Cup as well, I think, which some people forget about. And then Italy in the World Cup final, the Euros final. So I believe, even though you can say he's done a good job in hindsight compared to maybe other teams as to where they were getting knocked out by Portugal, they were getting knocked out by Italy. I still feel like if Gareth Southgate gets this side to a latter point in the tournament and then we come up against a very good side, I don't have much faith. And again, there was a part of me that was wanting us to come up against a big team in the last 16, because I thought, well, at least if anything's ever going to stick a boot up our backsides, it could be playing a Germany or a top side. Maybe that will bring the best out of us. But because we now are on the lenient side of the draw and we might be able to scrape through playing pretty average, I still don't believe that's enough to prove that what Southgate's doing with this team is good. And I still believe if we hit a good team, they'll absolutely do us. So I just don't feel like, I feel like there was a window for him to really test stuff out and find the answer. And I feel like he's missed the boat now.
Yeah, I agree. And I think some of his decision-making's been a bit questionable as well. I was having a bit of a debate with the lads at work earlier, and my mate Ash had said it's easy to kind of criticise the decision to play Trippier at left back and not take Luke Shaw in hindsight. I'm like, I agreed with what he was saying, and there was a bit before that as well. I can't remember off the top of my head now, but I'm also kind of thinking, when I'm, for example, playing Football Manager, building a team, picking a team, you have 2 players for every position. You don't take one left back and then, the right back will fill in and, kind of be inverted on that left-hand side, because it's not doing anything. and it's poorly affecting the rest of the team. We discussed this after the Serbia game, the fact that Foden's got no one overlapping, and he's having to come inside, and it's generally more congested there on the edge of the box. So he's going to have a lot more chance of losing the ball in that position. And that's only one of them. There's tactical stuff as well. I'm probably not going to go all in on Southgate for the tactical stuff. I don't know how true this is. I read before that one of the reasons that Steve Holland is there is to offer this sort of tactical knowledge and stuff for Southgate, which, being honest, unless Southgate's improved a lot since he was at Borough, we needed, because we've seen his tactical or lack of tactical now at Borough back in the day, but it's on the coaching staff as a whole. It's not just on Southgate, and it's pretty sad to see now, because I feel like over the last couple of tournaments, especially, Southgate has built something with this England team. It was a very together group, very close-knit group, and they played well together. And it all seems to have kind of come undone in this tournament. The players look leggy. I saw a meme earlier where it was like Ultimate Team rating 100, chemistry 0. That could easily be. It could easily be this England team. I feel like there's decisions that have been made going into this tournament in the guise of kind of being quite ruthless with the selection and trying to overthink parts of the selection. And for me, they've just not paid off. When you're leaving kind of people who've been really big characters in this team, like Harry Maguire, for example. I know he's not everyone's cup of tea at Man United, although I think he did improve during this season, if I'm remembering that right. I know he's not played a lot, but he still probably should be going along, because he's been such an integral part of the team in recent tournaments. And I feel like this is a very different look England team going into it, and it's been made on the case that, right, I'm picking people based on form rather than what they've done to us. And I think that's a response to criticism that people have had of Southgate in the last couple of tournaments. But then he's tried to respond to it in here, and I think it's backfired as well.
Yeah, I think in the interest of not sticking the knife in on Southgate any further, I do think it's worth mentioning, more than we kind of have just touched on, that the players need to take responsibility as well. I went into followed the first game up against Serbia thinking Jude Bellingham can do no wrong. And it's funny that since then, I don't think Jude Bellingham has done a single thing right. And I was listening to Football Ramble, and they went in on Jude Bellingham. They were saying he was languid, he was Hollywood. And I kind of actually saw a little bit of that. Now, I'm not going to say for any of the players that they're not trying, that they don't care. I think they absolutely do. But for whatever reason, he has, like, his quality levels have waned. Kane looks terrible. I have never seen Harry Kane look this bad. And he's coming off a fucking fantastic season for Bayern Munich. And I was reading The Guardian earlier, and I just want to read what Barney Ronnet wrote. He said that Kane has looked quietly confused in Germany, determined to carry on, but essentially lost. A man walking quite near an athletic event. Here he looked as if he was playing underwater whilst also heroically drowning. It is rare to see any elite professional athlete seem so exhausted. And that's kind of been the narrative, hasn't it? That these players look leggy, and they can come out in the press firing and say that they're not, but they're playing like a team that is, because it comes down to the passings off. Like, you've got Matt Gahey, who's angling a pass, like, completely not at Declan Rice, and we lose the ball. Like, Jude Bellingham himself, instead of just passing it like 5 yards to Phil Foden, decides to clip one in, and it bounces straight off the bonds of one of the Slovenia players. It's like, what are we actually doing? And on the criticism, actually, Tom, there was lots of talk this week about the negative reaction to England's performances. To kind of spin this, what would you like to see from England that would provoke a positive reaction from yourself?
Just play football, just the way we know that they can. Just a point on what you've just mentioned there. I don't know if either of you guys saw it or any of the listeners saw it. There was a tweet that was going around in the last couple of days, and it was the England players coming out of the training base, and someone said, "No, the body language just does not look right on these players," and they didn't look upbeat, happy, or anything like that. It generally looked a bit of a miserable atmosphere, and like you said, they'll come out in the press and deny it, but I do wonder kind of why and why that kind of like, it's not even a lack of confidence on the pitch, but just lack of cohesion, I think is the word for
100%.
it. They don't look like a team, so they need to pick that up in the knockout stages now. It matters a lot more now that we are through. One game could put us out. And I'm stating the obvious here. I'm going to sound like Michael Owen, but they need to pick it up now. There's no excuses. There's it can't just be like, oh, we had a bad game, but we're going to deny it in the press. You have a bad game now, you're out. So it needs to be that the team pick up and start playing the way we can. Hopefully, with it being knockout football now, there's less chance of teams defending deep against us because they know they're going to have to go for the win as well. There's no kind of tactical draws or anything like that, knowing that where they can finish in the group. So hopefully that could aid us a little bit, but we need to take control of it ourselves. And I completely agree with what you just said there. After we just moaned about Southgate for a little bit, the players have to take responsibility for this as well. But so I don't say so do the coaching staff. They are one. They are all the same team. They need to all take responsibility, book their ideas up, and start playing positively in the next game.
100%. There was one change for that game against Slovenia. Gallagher came in for Trent Alexander-Arnold in midfield. And I have a bone to pick with this because it came out the day before, and I don't know why team news is dropped or leaked the day before games. I can't wrap my head around that. But when I saw that it was Gallagher, it was obvious, really, wasn't it? Because Gallagher was the first sub for the first two games. I was overcome by this bout of anger, and then I just let it go because I thought, I can't be asked. I cannot be asked. It was predictable that Southgate was going to do that, but it's worrying that he thought that the solution to England's problems in the first two group games was Conor Gallagher. Now, Conor Gallagher is a good player in his physical output. He's a chaser. He's a presser. He's got good energy. He's a bit of a pom in the park. Go fetch this ball, Conor Gallagher. But in possession, he's not the player that's going to grant you control over a football match. He's not the player that's going to kind of tie things up, connect it between the defensive line, the midfield line, and the attack. He's not going to be the type of passer, progressive passer that we need in that midfield. And ultimately, like against Slovenia, who, regardless of whether or not they knew that a point would be enough to see them progress, they were always going to set up very rigid, very structured off the ball, and they were going to frustrate England with the way that they were setting up. It was 4-4-2, proper old school shit house 4-4-2. Let's piss England off, give them the ball, let's see what they can do, and maybe hit us on the counter attack. So tell me, why do you need Conor Gallagher? Like it renders him completely redundant, and I felt sorry for him because in that first 45 minutes he looked lost. I think we were playing more of a 4-3-3 in this game, and Conor Gallagher was like the most advanced midfielder, and he I think it took him 10 minutes to register his first touch in the game, and it was never going to work. And the fact that he came off and he was hauled off at half-time is like, that came to the surprise of absolutely nobody. He was not the answer, and if that is Southgate's mentality, if that's how he kind of responds to what he's seeing, then fucking hell, I can't. I'm going to be honest, I'm worried. But Matt, how did you think that Conor Gallagher fared in that game against Slovenia yesterday?
I can't recall a thing he did. I'm going to be honest.
Well, he somehow missed that lovely ball that Trippier put into the box. He somehow missed it, and so did Kane.
Yeah, they had the header. He missed the header and Kane missed the flick on. I didn't see it making any sort of difference, and the writing was on the wall. I think the second the rumours started coming out, I couldn't quite believe that he'd only made one change, and I don't understand how he thought it was going to work. After maybe the opening game, you can hold your hands up and say, okay, got it wrong. We'll make a couple of changes. We'll try a few new things. Game 2, exactly the same side. And would you believe the same stuff happens? He makes the same substitutions for the most part. It doesn't really make much of a difference. You then start one of them substitutes and expect it to somehow change again. I don't know if there's a degree of stubbornness that he feels like this is the best 11 players in the England team. These are the best 11 individuals. And he's hoping he can somehow knit it together. But that's very reminiscent of the England of old, when under Sven-Göran Eriksson, we'd have Paul Scholes at left mid for some reason because he was trying to squeeze Gerrard and Lampard and Beckham into a midfield. It feels like the England of old, and what I feel Southgate has done relatively well in his time is he's gotten the right players into a decent system, and it's been very effective for the most part. And for some reason, it feels like he is resorting to just trying to get the best players in the best team, in the best 11, without actually thinking about how it's going to work as a cohesive unit. There are so many teams in this tournament that have nowhere near, not even a fraction of the quality that we have. If you put our 11 alongside theirs, it doesn't even compare. But that's irrelevant if we're not working as a unit and there isn't a clear strategy, clear tactics. And I feel like it was a case of just chucking shit at a wall and hoping something sticks. I don't think it really inspired me with confidence that he knew exactly what he was doing. And again, I go back to it. It was the final group game. We were through anyway. We might have still finished second, but you're through, you take more risks, you're braver, you give a few players a chance. Like, what have we got to lose? So it just absolutely, I was dumbfounded by the fact he only made one change. And I'm not surprised that it didn't work. And that's probably a bit like with Trent and how he was sort of, I guess, chucked under the bus a little bit by getting thrown in. Gallagher's the same. Like, he was never the answer. He was thrown in. It didn't work. So now there's maybe going to be a stigma against him being in that midfield. So, yeah, I know we're going to go on to the subs, but there is a glimmer that with the players he did bring on eventually, that might give us a window of what might work and what might not. But I'll never, ever understand why after not one, but 2 games where that 11 did not work, he thought Conor Gallagher, no offence to him, would magically transform our fortunes. I'm baffled by it. I really am.
Yeah, it beggars belief, doesn't it? Speaking of subs then, during the game at half-time and in the second half, Manu, Palmer, Alexander-Arnold and Gordon all came on. Who out of that bunch do either of you want to give your thoughts on?
I thought Manu did well. I do wonder if the sub at half time wasn't necessarily tactical, but maybe he was trying to be like, we're through anyway. I'll give Gallagher 45 minutes. I'll give Manu 45 minutes and see who does better. It was Manu by a country mile. So hopefully he's in for the next game. Palmer as well, when he came on, looked really positive. Saw him a lot on that right-hand side, trying to take someone on and get a cross in. And for me, we have been, I wouldn't say we've been missing out on the right-hand side, because I do think Saka's been playing pretty decently. I think he's one of the few players in the team that comes out with some credit from the first couple of games, first few games. But Palmer and Manu, when they both came on, to me, both looked like they at least wanted to make a difference, and they'd been waiting for that chance to get on the pitch. To an extent, Anthony Gordon as well. I only saw him for a couple of minutes, as everyone else saw. I can't really comment much on him, but it did seem like they wanted to make an impression when they got on the pitch. And for me, they did.
Manu was exactly what we needed. A bit of that energy, but with that passing quality as well. There was a lovely move where Anthony Gordon played a defence splitting pass towards the end. Manu flicked it on for Kane. Kane sort of... I'm so bad at describing football moments, but kind of, passed it to Cole Palmer. And then we obviously had that shot that I thought was the moment. And that was England playing quickly and trying to transition with gusto and real quality, and Mainoo was a part of that. I think what I noticed when he came on was that he was making those third man runs. So there was Saka, Mainoo, and I think it might have been Walker on that right hand side. And when you have that, we've seen it at Borough, I keep referencing it, that iconic trio that we had under Chris Wilder. But you're able to connect, you're able to pass through teams and pass around the fullback, and in this case, the covering left central midfielder. And I thought that we were getting into that half space on that right-hand side quite well. And then Palmer came on, and I will say that Palmer played well when he came on, and I think he showed why there's so much clamour for him. But then those third man runs stopped, and I think Palmer himself on that right-hand side was decent enough, but I don't know whether it was Mainoo just had to take up a different role then. But yeah, that kind of the third man runs kind of stopped, and then England didn't. It was quite a potent part of that second half for me, and it just became less potent because of that. But if Mainoo does not start in the round of 16 game, then Gareth Southgate has lost his absolute marbles. But I think he will, and Palmer did well as well.
Yeah, I think out of the overall puzzle, one thing we can take out is I think we've finally found the answer for who goes alongside Declan Rice, and that's got to be a positive. Like, finally, surely that's the answer. And I think for what he might lack in experience, I think he brings composure and quality on the ball, and I thought he was really, really good. So I think Mainoo has definitely played himself into that position alongside Rice. I thought Palmer was good too. Just gave us that little bit of energy. He was direct. I think instantly on the left-hand side, he tried to get around the fullback. I think he might have won as a throw-in or a corner. I can't remember what it was. And I know game state, you could say, well, Slovenia were just dropping deeper and deeper. They were more tired. We were bringing on fresh legs. So naturally, Palmer, Gordon might have had more of an effect on the game later on as impact players as they might do from the start. But I think it still shows that the best move of the game included all three. You know, Gordon's run inside. The pass was fantastic. It was brave. It was incisive. It's what we've not been at all. Someone else would have probably played a side pass to Trent or whoever, Stones, or gone back to bloody Pickford. But it was a brilliant pass, and then suddenly you've got little 1-2s, and then we're in. And you know, if Palmer wraps his foot around it, who knows? We're talking about a different result, different game. Impact players have done amazing. It completely changes. One thing I found interesting, I don't know what you guys think about this, is when Trent come on, he was at right back. They moved Walker to the left.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys think that maybe we still obviously have a right footer at left back, but do you think that maybe that could open up the potential of playing Trent in the knockouts as the right back, Walker on the left, and then maybe when we attack, we have Walker, Stones, and Gahey as a 3, with Trent bombing on down the right-hand side? Do you think maybe there's an option with that, or do you think he might just stick with Trippier, and that was just a thing that was late on in that game?
I'm glad that you've brought this up, actually, Matt, because I think it's something England can look at, because Trent Alexander-Arnold is best at right back. To hell with him playing midfield, just play him in the position that he excels in, and that is right back. Kyle Walker playing right back, he's low-key a bit crap. I'm not going to lie. Like, I feel like it's maybe gone under the radar, Kyle Walker. City fans will probably say it themselves that for a few months now, I think Kyle Walker has maybe been dipping in his performance output. The max that I think you'll get from Kyle Walker is good, but I think the best that you can get from Trent is like a man of the match performance, in my opinion. So I think actually to play Kyle Walker left back and then Trent right back might work, and you can have Kyle Walker covering that space behind a Phil Foden or an Anthony Gordon, however you want to approach that left wing, and then you can have Trent bombing on and being that kind of the Ryan Giles, if you want to Borough-fy it, but on the right-hand side. So I think it's maybe something that England could look at for sure.
I think as well, potentially Kyle Walker might be a little bit more comfortable overlapping on that left-hand side. I know he's not left-footed and stuff, but he's actually got the pace to do it. And if there's one thing I can see that he is definitely confident about, it's his pace on the pitch and knowing that he's faster than most. So I think, despite the fact that he's not left-footed, he'd probably feel comfortable overlapping just for the fact that he's got the pace to beat that defender on the left-hand side.
Yeah, it's definitely something that maybe Gareth Southgate will deliberate. Sticking with changes then, Matt, Jake from our Telegram chat asks, do you think Palmer and Gordon's performances will be enough to convince Southgate to try starting them in the knockout rounds?
God, this is where we say yes and it's unchanged. He might even revert back to the team against Serbia for all we bloody know.
He might even bring in Jordan Henderson from the cold.
Flies him in as
Mason
an
Mount.
emergency.
God, Mason Mount.
I think Palmer potentially, and I think maybe a external thing that's just happened might also affect this, because Phil Foden's been, well, he's left the squad temporarily, and I don't think they said he'll return by Sunday, but our game's on Sunday, so if he doesn't train between now and Saturday, I don't know if he'll be, I mean, how much fitness and sharpness can a player lose in a few days? But there's a possibility there with him having to leave the squad and come back in. He might not start, I don't know, but that could open the door for Cole Palmer potentially. I think he certainly did enough. Gordon, I don't know. As much as I'd love to see him play on the left, and we've all been clamouring for it, I think the cameo of only 3 minutes, I don't think Southgate's going to chuck him in for a full 90-minute knockout game based off of just that, even though I thought he did well. But Palmer, I definitely think, has got a chance. And I've saw a few suggest that maybe if Foden is brought into the 10, or maybe he drops out and Bellingham is still in the 10, we could put Saka on the left-hand side. Because some have said that, I'm a bit like Tom, I don't watch a lot of Premier League football, but apparently he started playing in off the left for Arsenal. He's done it quite a bit. So we could have Saka come in and off the left, and then you could have Palmer on the right, maybe. So again, it's like juggling this front four. How long is it until we get it right? I don't know, but Palmer, I think, definitely has gave himself a shout. I'd love to see Gordon in there, but I just don't think Gareth Southgate would make that many changes going into a knockout game. It'll be 1 or 2 at most, I think, unfortunately.
Tom, Ty, who's also from our Telegram chat, asks, from the players, and this is a good question, from the players who weren't selected, who is the one that has hurt us not having them the most so far?
I think, for me, Harry Maguire is a major one. And I'm not even saying that as in like Mark Gay's done bad or anything like that. I think he's done a really, really good job in defence. Harry Maguire is a big character in that England team and has been for the last couple of tournaments. And I did find myself thinking during the match yesterday and also during the Denmark match, if we had Harry Maguire in that team, I think we'd have probably scored at least one header from a set piece, because for England, he always seems to find a way of getting into the right area, getting that big slab head on it and putting it into the net. So there's Harry Maguire, but I also think potentially Marcus Rashford as well. I know he's not
100%.
done
100%.
That was
I know
mine.
he's not.
Yeah.
I know he's not been apparently not great this season. But for me, he just offers something to the England team, and whether that is that bit of pace on the left hand side and being able to create and score goals. I don't think we're getting that at the moment with Foden there, which I wouldn't say is Foden's fault. We've spoken about the reasons why, but it'd be nice to be able to bring Rashford on around the 60, 70-minute mark and just kind of let him take over and run at the defence and see what he can do as well.
Yeah, he offers something on that left-hand side in particular as well. And especially if Kane is going to drop deep, which he is, that's what Kane does. It's part of his stylistic profile. Then you want runners. And I think for England, what we've seen quite a lot is Marcus Rashford being that runner. And to be fair, Gordon could do that. He's direct and he's quick. So I would say Marcus Rashford as well, which is, he's not had a good season. And I think his struggles, it always seems to be that Marcus Rashford's performance struggles are the most documented thing in like football, in the football landscape. But simply put, for England, I think he would give us something different. So I think he would be my pick as well.
Yeah, Rashford's my pick too. Absolutely.
Last little bit of the pod then. We all know it now that England are on the better side of the draw, with France, Germany, Spain, and Portugal all on the opposing side. But with the way that England are currently playing, does it matter?
No.
No.
For me, it's kind of disrespectful to speak about the teams on our side of the draw like that. And I think especially when we've got a good chance we'll be playing Netherlands in the next round. I watched them play France on Friday, and bearing in mind I was about 10 Coronas deep at this point at my work start night, I had gone from my two drink peak and playing darts down to 10 and not being able to hit anything. But I seem to remember Netherlands played well, and they were more than a match for France. So that doesn't. I'm not more optimistic going into the next game, knowing that we're on this side of the draw, because we could still easily get beat off Netherlands. So it doesn't even matter that France, Germany, Spain, and Portugal are on the other side, because we could still get beat off Netherlands. We'd be battered off any of them playing on the way we've been playing.
Yeah, I think it might prolong our tournament a bit, but I'm not going to be a typical arrogant England fan and assume that we've got a straight stroll to the final or whatever, because we just don't. If we were playing well, then yeah, maybe we could back it up with a bit of arrogance and say, yeah, we're one of the best looking teams in the tournament and we've got one of the best draws, but we look like one of the most blunt and disconnected teams in the whole tournament. And Denmark showed that despite not having the quality, they matched us. And although they weren't great themselves, I don't even feel confident against the Netherlands. We're going to have to up our game massively. And then you're looking at Switzerland or Italy, and I think Switzerland would probably do us as well. And even Italy were nowhere near what they once were. Yeah, I don't think it matters at all. If we start playing well and hitting our full stride, then maybe yes. But at the end of the day, the goal is to win this tournament. So you're going to have to hit one of them regardless if you want to win the whole thing. And I don't know if not winning it would be a failure. Maybe getting to the final might be classed as success. I don't know. But still, if our goal is to go and win this tournament, or at least be competitive in the final, even if we do get through this very quote-unquote easy side of the draw, if we play any of them 4 teams on the other side in the final, at the minute, they'd batter us. So, yeah, context is key, and I don't think it matters all that much.
Yeah, the performance levels, truly, and to be mourning Myrtle here, I don't think there's a solution to this. There's certainly not a quick fix. It doesn't suddenly just click. Like, this is an England side on borrowed time, in my opinion. And the way that we're playing right now, we are destined for a round of 16 exit. Having said that, the stakes are so much higher now, because shit is getting real. England do need to step it up, because the consequence of not doing so, they're back in Heathrow Airport. So this is where it really gets serious now. And I am hoping, because in Euro 2020, we kind of stuttered through the group a little bit. Do you remember that 0-0 draw against Scotland where everyone was having an existential crisis? It's not been too dissimilar this time round. And I think I'm really hoping, not expecting, but hoping that Gareth Southgate turns this performance level round, because you can talk all you want until your face goes blue about the fact that we topped the group. We've been rather fortuitous in that this group has been legitimately dog shit. But now is the time where they need to respond to all of the criticism that they have faced in the group stages and show exactly what they're made of, because there's absolutely no doubt we've got quality players. We just haven't seen it. So step it up, England. You know, this is the serious part of the tournament now, and it's kind of a reset. What can you do from here?
If he makes a few changes, I could get quite optimistic. Like if he does make 3 or 4 changes and we step it up a couple of gears, then that could be the answer. But he has to take that risk. He has to be proactive in that sense. He has to prove that he can change it. And now we're in the last 16. I feel like the stakes are so much higher from the group to now. He's probably less likely to want to make changes. I mean, if he wasn't going to make changes between the Denmark and Slovenia game, when we were through pretty much, like what is there to prove that he's going to make more changes heading into a knockout game when it is all or nothing. And for a lot of these young lads who've had a few minutes, if that, it is a huge deal. So I just don't feel like he's brave enough, unfortunately. And I think like if he was, at least gamble, and we can go out saying we've tried to do something different. I'd much rather that than us just keep trying to play the same 9 or 10 players with a few changes and just go out in a whimper. So I just don't get why he doesn't go for it. He's got the tools at his disposal. But my only hope is that if we play a better team, we are forced to raise our standards. Because I guess you could say we've been in a shit group where we've won it with 5 points. So maybe, sometimes you do drop your performance, alongside the team you're playing. So maybe, and this is me clutching at straws, if we play a better team, we will be forced to raise our game. So maybe that will drag the best out of us, because I think the way we're playing, something's going to have to drag the best out of us, and maybe that'll be it.
Okay, we will wrap up now. If you've listened to this podcast on the podcast providers, or if you've watched us on YouTube, please do give us feedback on this series. It is very much appreciated by all of us. And why not share it with your friends as well? We would really appreciate that too. That is all, and we will see you for the knockouts. Ta-ra!